Hello, welcome to the stage. Take a second just to enjoy.
Wow.
Right, it's quite nice when you get to see this view.
Very.
I always think it's nice for people to be able to introduce themselves. So I'd love for you each to introduce yourself, what work you do, and so then we can jump into the conversation about future of work. So I'll start with you, Helen.
Oh, good afternoon. My name is Helen Remna, and I'm the CEO for Manpower Group and Experience. And I'm working in the intersection between business and talents.
And my name is Gertrude. Lovely to see everyone. I'm an AI adoption strategist, as well as founder of Reframe Tech, where I help individuals and companies build AI fluency through what I call AI circles.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica Carragher Wallner, and I'm the workforce leader for PwC Sweden. But I heard something fantastic just here on stage, and so I'd like to say I work with uncertainty, because that's what I do.
Nice. Perfect. I love it when everyone picks up something from stage as well. And you all come from very different perspectives. I just pause for a second, just so you know, when we were in the break just now, we actually went through all of the questions. Someone asked me if we use AI to filter the questions that you did send in a Menti. No, I read through all of them. And we picked out some of the best ones to bring into this panel as well, because we saw so many was about leadership, was about also from an employee perspective, understanding, how can I get into the workplace? How am I going to, as a developer? So we have your questions and we've built them into it. But jumping in, you all have different starting points and different perspectives. So some of you work with talent development, industry innovation. How does each of you see the biggest shift happening in the world of work right now? Helen, do you want to start?
I can for sure start. So I think that the absolutely major change in the world of work we see as today is the paradox between skills that are required and expertise that are available. And that is something we all need to take responsibility to try to fill that gap. But of course, expertise available and skills gap is something that comes with this technology speed. Since we are asking for experts in everything we have talked about today, but the expert doesn't exist because the technology more or less was born yesterday. So I think that is something that affects the labor market and the world of work every second.
What about you, Jessica? I'll jump between.
I think where I'm most situated in this environment is within management and boards, and the challenges that they face trying to figure out strategic workforce planning for the future when they don't really know themselves where we're really going within the tech field. So I think that's where I am, and that's what I work with. So a lot of leadership. So any questions on leadership, just talk to me.
We've got a lot coming, don't worry. What about you, Gertrude? Where do you see the shift? You work a lot more with the talent and talent development.
Yeah, exactly. I see the shift being more from expertise to more combining the different skill set that a person can have. For instance, my background spans developer advocacy, journalism, programming, as well as technical writing. And those different skills together make up a role where you shift from looking for a particular role, but defining the skills that you bring to execute a workflow or something that you need to get done in the workplace. So a lot of ownership as well.
And I mean, Jessica, you speak a lot about leadership and we see, and I think we feel a lot of pressure, especially those that work in large corporate companies, of pressure from leaders of, okay, you need to learn this, and putting demands on us. Do the leaders really know what they want?
No, they don't. They actually don't, and I think that's one of the big questions in this. And what I would wish for every large corporation and company is that they have that discussion on what is it we actually all need to learn, because it's, as you say, usually push it down in the organization, and we also hold people accountable for reskilling themselves, but it starts at the top.
Yeah.
So it's really for everyone, and no one can get away. Everyone has to do it to understand where we're going. And we talked about it a bit before. We talked about what's the biggest challenge in this era. And right now, it's really to understand, not only to talk about agents, it's how to take responsibility for the decisions we have to make for a large corporation or organization based on people and agents.
Yeah. And when it comes to, I mean, also just to clarify, Gertrude, what's a developer advocate? So you are a developer advocate, that's your title, but what is it? What does it do?
A developer advocate is a person that sits between external developers and internal developers, essentially. However, some companies have developer advocates who only advocate for internal developers. What you're trying to do is ensuring that the different developers are not operating in silos and understand the tooling that exists, as well as giving them a sort of first step into building with the platform, for instance, or the tools that are available. Yeah, and a lot of community management, because you will be bringing together different developers together.
Yeah, of course. And as you said, it's important to kind of put pressure on making sure people reskill themselves, but then also being very clear on what you're reskilling. So I know there's a lot of people that are looking at AI and knowing that they need to show AI competencies. That's an absolute must-have. But how do you show that? I mean, there's no point you writing on, I can put on my CV, knows ChatGPT, but that feels pretty redundant. I mean, it's like saying, can you, before we say can use Microsoft Word, whereas now it's like, well, you're not going to put it directly on your CV. So how can individuals show their AI competence? And what can we expect from, if you are in recruitment, what are you looking for? How can we spot those skills? I'm going to throw that out and let any of you jump on it.
Yeah, so I think it's very important that when we showcase the AI, it's very much about what you can show that you have done, what you also not have done, and what you do with the result and the outcome, and showing that I think that is a very important showcase when it comes to AI in your day-to-day job, because it's so easy to ask a question, how do you work with AI today in your day-to-day job, and then we always can say more about what we have done, but what you don't have done or what you have done with the outcome, that is where you really can showcase that you are an expert in the field, and also covering the risk factors that comes with this.
And if I can add something, I think it's also, because now we talk about AI and we talk about tech, but what's beyond that? So there are skills that you can show, like curiosity, there are skills that you can change fast, all of these things. That's what we need to look at as well, because if we focus on AI, the world is kind of running away from us, and we need to be, it's like the future is happening now, so that's what we need to focus on. So I think it's hard, of course, because how do you measure how much a person can change or how curious they are? But that's really the challenge. There has to be a way of doing that, and we need to find the way.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna put you on the spot there, Jessica, and say, okay, we're in a recruitment process. You're interviewing me for a role. How do I practically show that I am curious, I have all the skills that you're looking for? How can I show you that in a recruitment process?
So if you do it with me, I would give you a problem, and I would want to see how many different solutions you would come up with or ways of looking at it, because that's the growth mindset for me. It can be different.
I would add that you also need some kind of a portfolio that is visible before you even get to, let's say, the hiring manager, because you have to pass through some level of screening. And for all of us, taking ownership means building a digital footprint that can be recognized. And it's not that everyone should have a personal brand or everything, even though there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're going to look for, let's say, a developer advocacy role or technical writing role, you should be able to show in some way that you can write, that you can create videos, for instance, if that's what it needs. You can create sample apps, you can automate flows. So you need a way in which you have a digital footprint.
And practically wise, how You want to add something?
Yes,
Add something for
yes.
my next question.
Thank you. No, because I think you're totally right. But I also think that it's a way of seeing things black and white. So it's either you look at it one way or the other. There's so many ways in between. And for me, it's a lot about personality when I hire someone, because you can see that a person would want to do these things, but maybe have not had the opportunity to do that. But that's something we can provide. Then that could be the person that I would want to hire. So I think there are, things in between.
Yep. Yeah, and I was just going to, ask you and say, okay, so now you say it's important to have like a portfolio to showcase your skills. So now I'm going to come back and say, okay, now you're interviewing me. I'm having a lot of interviews today. You're interviewing me. I say I have a portfolio. What are you expecting to see when I say this is my portfolio showing my tech abilities?
If, let's say, you are looking for a technical writing role, I would want to see, and it's for, let's say, a product, and you talk about having AI skills, I would want to see how you have written about a specific AI tool. It doesn't have to be related to the product or company that you're applying to, but if you can take those concepts and present them to me, then that would be more compelling than just saying it, because I want to see your process of writing. So that even when I do have the conversation with you, I would want to ask you, how did you approach this task? Like, which parts did you automate? Was it the drafting? Was it the review process? Or something in those lines. So I would absolutely like to see something.
Okay, nice.
Can I add something?
Yeah, of course.
So I also think that now we're talking about a very specific role in this. We also have the soft skills, which is extremely important. We need to be competence-based when we ask our questions. In terms of communication, that is a huge increasing way of how you need to communicate, because the AI agents will also be part of your hybrid teams nowadays. So also asking questions, when did you saw the problem? How did you face the problem? What did you do with it? How did you interact with other people? That is not specific AI questions, but it sits in the recruitment process as well. So we also need to capture a little bit of what we usually call soft skills.
Yeah, and I always I never really liked that they call them soft skills, because it almost gives the interpretation that they are easier to get because they're softer. So I always like, well, they're human skills, and ultimately, the more soft skills you have, the more you can kind of showcase your 100%. Value in an organization. And I know, Helen, you've spoken a lot about not just chasing talent, but creating it, and a lot of senior leaders often think about, okay, we need this competence in the company, let's look at hiring someone. Whereas the competencies are most likely within, especially if it's a big company, within the company already, they just haven't yet sort of identified it. So what does it look like in practice in creating talent from within the organization?
Yeah, so first of all, you need to know your baseline. And if you think about your company, how much do you think your company knows about the baseline? What type of competence do you already have in terms of the new technology? Some of you probably will say we have full control of it, and some others probably need to learn more. So the assessment needs to sit there, because that's creating the baseline of what you want to do with your workforce. And then, of course, also separate. You can't say the full workforce is the same. In the bigger companies, you have a massive number of people, so you also need to categorize. Okay, this is after an assessment, this is the level. Part of the organization is, and then other type of levels, and then put in upskilling programs. And they also need to be partly role-based. Not fully role-based, but it differs if you are in finance, or if you're working in IT, or if you're a developer, and so on. So the cross-functions needs also to sit there. So starting with assessment, be clear what you want to achieve, how does success looks like, and put a true academy program in. But also, from a middle management perspective, we also need to ensure that learning needs to be something that sits in our day every minute of our 40 hours per week. So it's not a project in itself.
No, because a lot of people are like, you have to learn, and we want you to learn about all these new tools, but by the way, I need you to be as productive as possible.
Exactly.
So learn in your own time, and then you're constantly chasing that wheel. We had a similar question from the previous panel saying, how do you convince tech leadership of the validity of these concerns when there's so much incentive to do otherwise? Did you want to take that one, Jessica?
Yes, I can. Now I think the important thing is really to create that environment, and a little like you said, where everything is possible, both doing what you need to do every day, but then absolutely educate yourself. But it's not, again, for just a younger generation in the company. It is for everyone. So you cannot delegate this to others. You need to work with it within the whole company. But this is the challenge, because I don't think that we believe that that's the way it needs to be done. I think we're back in when we worked with other types of transformations. This is a reinvention of how we work and lead. So I think, that's what I think.
Yeah, it's like a paradox of productivity of
Yeah.
you want to show how productive you are, but then you also need to be upskilling and researching, and to be curious, we have to like follow a path and then see that it leads to a dead end and then, reverse and go to another one. But that means that, the amount of output that I'm creating may be less, but ultimately it's better in the long term, but it may not look as clear, as productive as other colleagues.
And I think you're saying something really, really important right now, and it's to lead in this time, you need to do both short-term and long-term at the same time. And we've always said that, but we haven't really done that, because it's very easy to look at the short-term, because we want to be productive, we want to make profits and all these things. But this is the time. We have to do it. It has to be both.
Are you going to add? Please jump in. I'm happy when anyone jumps in. I'm like, please go knock yourselves out.
To that point, I think this also it is a leadership question. I think we already have agreed about that. And the leadership also needs to know that it's so easy from a productivity point of view that we say, okay, now it took us many hours. Now it will take us 15 minutes. But the human judgment will take more time. We need to have that part in this productivity evaluation. That is also something that the leaders, the top leadership, needs to understand, but also the leadership in the full company also need to fuel that information both upwards and also to the individuals, that it's also sit at individuals to show this is the expertise we have in the organization. Me as an employee, I have this expertise. I see what we can gain. I see the obstacles, and also want to feed that information, because that is how we're creating a learning organization.
And I also think that many executives knows about this, but they don't really know how to handle it, because I get so many questions on that. So I know I have these fantastic people in my organization doing all of these great things, but I don't know how I can bring that to the board to bring it further. I don't know what to say, because they are not there either. So I think there's really both ways. There is a responsibility from top management, but also from the people inside the organization to support. There is no good word for that in English, but we have one in Swedish, how you make people look better, and it goes all the ways. And I think that's really important to bring into this as well, because this is behavioral change. So it's not like we decide, it's not the strategy, it's behavioral change, and that's the hardest part.
Yeah. And it takes a long, and part of the behavioral change, you need to know where your starting point is. And I know you, Gertrude, often talk about having a framework and doing an assessment to kind of self-assessment, work out where is my starting point, where do I want to get to, and then creating your journey. So what is the type of framework that you tend to work with?
Exactly. So it's called the 4 A's framework, and it's actually adapted from Dr. Joseph and Rick Duncan, which essentially talks about AI fluency. And you move from being aware about AI, that's understanding the possibilities, as well as what AI can do. And then you move on to awareness, where you identify the specific work that AI can do for you in order to achieve what you want to achieve. But then a lot of people get stuck in that stage because you feel overwhelmed and terrified. And that's why you need to move on to adaptability, where you actually take action, which is where I stand for all the time and advocate about, because nobody is coming to save you if you don't do the work. So you need to identify where can you automate work, where can you augment, and where can you use agency in order to make a very sound judgment about your work. And once you've done that work, you will then move on to adoption, and that's where the magic happens. Then you'll be able to tell management, like, okay, I have done this. I've been able to automate competitive analysis, for instance, and this is what it means by me doing this, all the team. And I do have a free assessment on my website if someone is interested and would find it helpful. That breaks down those 4 stages.
What's the website? You got the stage
Oh,
now.
it's just GertrudeChilufya.com.
Okay. And what were the 4 A's?
Right.
Remind me.
It's awareness, ambition, adaptability, and adoption.
Perfect. That's great. I think a lot of people are very curious. And now let's talk about ethics and governance. As AI becomes embedded in everyday work, how do we balance speed and innovation with responsibility, ethics, and policy? So I'll just throw it out there. Do we need more regulations?
We talked about it before.
I would say no.
Yeah,
Yes and no, I will say.
That's okay. So Helen, you say no, and why do you say no?
I think it's about adapting what's already existing, bring it up, and just tune it to how it needs to be adapted in the new technology era.
And Helen and Jessica, you say yes.
From different points of views, because firstly, I think tech and change is running so fast, so we need to move with it, also with regulation, but also from a perspective of me being able to work with some companies in Silicon Valley where they don't have the same regulations as we do in Sweden, where they say that it would be nice because sometimes it feels so scary because no one is really safeguarding what we're doing. So from that perspective, yes, we perhaps need that.
Yeah. Where do you sit, Gertrude?
I would say I would take it a step back. Like, do we understand what we have? Because we have a lot of policy, and do we really understand? Do we know what the consequences are as we move more and more into the agentic era? Who is responsible for the actions that agents take? And if you have a company policy, you would understand where that would fall. So I would just try and understand if we all get it. And if we don't, do we know where to get that information? Is it accessible for everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's an excellent point.
And do the rules we already have in place play the same role? Yes, probably it does, at least to an extent where the leadership is still responsible for what an employee is doing, or for the AI and the AI agent, what that is doing. That's still the same responsibility, governance, that already is built into the companies.
And this is a good teaser for what's coming after this, which is we'll be speaking about the AI Act as well. So we will be speaking about regulation.
Can I add something?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, because I think also that we should also take some away. It's like we shouldn't add and add and add.
Yeah.
We should also review and take away some. We need to do that. And to your point, which is a very important point, management is always responsible, will always need to be responsible. You cannot blame AI or any other tech solution. It's there's a human on the top, and they need to understand that.
And there's, just moving on to a very important topic that I know is worrying and concerning a lot of people who are recently graduating or are quite junior in their roles and are finding that companies are now prioritizing or not hiring junior levels, only want senior developers in, but we also need to be a junior developer first to become a senior developer. So there was someone that asked, if you were graduating from university today, what would you do to get your first job? There's a lot of people with drive and will, but they may be overlooked because they're not the perfect candidate. So what would you recommend for people to do to get their first job, especially looking at getting their first job as a developer?
You're looking at me.
I'm looking at you. But you can start.
Yes. No, I actually like people that are straightforward. And perhaps now I will get a lot of LinkedIn messages after this, but that's what I like. Someone asking me, or could you help me with this? Do you know someone who? Because that's being bold and actually also being curious. So I think that's a good first step. And then never ever give up, because there is a job out there. There will be. So it's like, get out there, and someone else said today, like, stay and slay. That's my recommendation.
Stay and slay. I like it. What about you, Gertrude?
I don't want to be the pessimist, but it's tough. Like, let's be honest, it's very, very tough. And you're competing against, as we know, there's been lots of layoffs, and people that were senior are open to taking more junior roles. And when you do apply for the same role, it means, unfortunately, there would be a consideration for someone that already has the experience versus you, even though the work should be done by someone more junior. Now, having said that, you still need to have the resilience and believe that you will get that role. It might not look exactly the way that you envisioned it. If it's like a developer role, maybe look at UX design, and then the new roles that are coming up. Prompt engineering is not really that new anymore, but being an orchestrator and things like that, you need to see how you can show that you have the developer skills that will be beneficial, for instance, in marketing or analytics. So you need to be adaptable again.
Yeah.
And I need to take the employer perspective here.
Yeah.
So we need to also step up in this game. We need to ensure that we are stretching ourselves, understand that the technology will support the ones that don't have the expertise, and these people will have the right mindset. They are adaptable for sure, and that doesn't come with expertise in years. It comes with mindset. And I think that is something we need to build into our job taxonomies and our hiring processes.
Absolutely. It's a responsibility just as much, even more on the leaders and employers than the employees from both sides. Our time is up, but thank you so much for a great discussion.